This week's Wednesday Warfare is sponsored by BetterHelp. Hello, and it's time for Wednesday Warfare, where I review NXT and AEW Dynamite back-to-back and try and figure out which show won for the week. As always, like what you like, don't be a dick. Let's begin. NXT begins with a much-hyped big announcement to start the show. We have William Regal, who then tosses it to Keith Lee, who then announces he is relinquishing the North American Championship. He says that he wants to focus more on the NXT Championship, and he wants to let other wrestlers have the opportunities like he had to win the North American Championship. It's pretty big news. I like that Lee is not monopolizing the titles. We're seeing a lot more dual champions in this strange era we live in right now, and we're seeing things where both the belts are on the line every time. I like the fact that Lee is getting rid of one belt so we can just focus on the NXT Championship. It doesn't devalue the North American Championship by just being lumped in all the time with it, and also it does kind of leave the thing open, because then Regal follows up with the news by saying, to determine a new champion, we're going to have a series of triple threat matches, and then the winners of those matches will have a ladder match at the next takeover to determine the new champion. So I think that leaves a lot of openings, a lot of really interesting possibilities, as we'll see in the first triple threat match tonight. I really want to see how the ladder match qualifiers shake out, but yeah, it's a pretty big way to start the show. Opening match is Killian Dain versus Dexter Lumis. This match happened because Dain told Robert Stone to go get the match made after Dexter Lumis drew a picture of Dain being hit by a cup of coffee. Tale as old as time. As the match begins, Lumis is kind of a sneaky snake, but Dain beats him down, overpowers him. The straps come down for Killian Dain, but Lumis cuts him off. Those straps prove to be his undoing for the rest of the match, because poor Killian, he's adjusting his singlet with almost every other move after he puts the straps down. I'd rather just let it ride down, because the way he holds it up, it looks like he's got a giant thong wedgie just going way up into his hips like that. It's not a very good look. But anyway, Lumis ends up winning with a big comeback and the Anaconda Vice. A pretty solid opener. We get a little interview backstage with the men in the triple threat match later tonight. You got Bronson Reed, Roderick Strong, and Johnny Gargano all kind of throwing tense words at each other, and Bronson gets the exclamation point at the end saying he's going all out. Our next match sees Everrise taking on Breezango, and they're not the Mounties, but they do come out to the Mounties theme song for the first few seconds. They come out wearing the hats and the red vests. I popped big for that little entrance there. Beth Phoenix during the intro saying that Breezango said that beavers should be treated tenderly and passionately. I cannot believe they got that line through. No F's are given during this pandemic. It's a pretty good match here. Fandango with a hot tag, including a big dive to the outside with the Mountie cap on. Lots of Canada jokes and references made in commentary here, especially during that hot tag. Double super kick and Breezango win. We get a backstage interview with Dominik Dijakovic, who says he's going to smash Karrion Kross and knock him unconscious. Then we get a little promo vignette thing for Isaiah Swerve Scott, talking about his love of making music and wrestling and performing, all kind of blending into one. Also some strong words for the Cruiserweight champion Santos Escobar, and says the next time they face off, he will become the champion. Up next, Aaliyah takes on Shotzi Blackheart. Aaliyah takes over in the match after some Robert Stone meddling. Eventually, in this short and sweet matchup here, Shotzi gets her comeback, has fun with her comeback too. She knocks Stone off the apron at one point, hits the big cannonball splash to win the match, runs over Stone's good leg with her tank, and then after that, Mercedes Martinez runs in and jumps Shotzi, totally takes her out. She leaves Stone and Aaliyah as she makes her way to the back, and this is how we get the return of Mercedes Martinez, and I'm very excited to see what they do with her, because NXT needs a strong female heel right now in the absence of Shayna Baszler. Charlotte was a stopgap. Dakota Kai is on her way there, but I think she still needs a few more good programs under her belt to really get that spot. So right now, Mercedes Martinez being in there instantly puts her in that conversation for top female heel right now on the show. And then later on the night, we see her confronting Robert Stone and basically demanding that he become her manager and just handle all the stuff she doesn't want to deal with. And so he agrees to do it. And wow, what a range in clients for Robert Stone the last several months. From Chelsea Green to Aaliyah, and then to Mercedes Martinez. Talk about outkicking your coverage. Your first ladder match qualifier triple threat match here is you got Bronson Reed, Johnny Gargano, and Roderick Strong in action. We're gonna get so many shots of guys looking at that belt on the table as they make their entrance. I just can't wait to see all those shots of guys looking at the belt there. With some good heel interplay early in the match between Gargano and Strong. They're not trusting of each other. It's some pretty funny interactions here. At one point in the match, there's probably the best triple team head to dick spot I've ever seen executed. It's going to be really hard to describe. I just have to go seek this match out. But this match was really great. Everyone got a great chance to shine here. Bronson doing some big boy things, and Roderick looks good, and Johnny looks good here. Gargano hitting the one final beat on Strong to cover him with one hand. Bronson hit the top rope splash onto Strong and Gargano's hand, and a nice little selling by Gargano there. Bronson pins and wins. He's going to the ladder match, and I was shocked by that. I didn't think that. I think he was probably the least likely one to win the whole thing, but I think that was a very good match, and the story they told was good, and I like the finish as well. I think just these guys really put on a good show. In a rematch from Great American Bash a few weeks ago, Timothy Thatcher takes on Oney Lorcan. More good, tight physical work with these guys, lots of holds and counter holds, and grappling with some explosiveness to punctuate things throughout. Lorcan gets the armbar locked in. Working on Timothy Thatcher's arm a lot in this matchup here, but he's got the armbar locked in, and Thatcher just kind of rolls through it into a pinfall. So he kind of ends up pinning Lorcan, getting the 3 count, and winning yet again. So he's beaten Lorcan 2 different ways now, one being a little more sneaky than the other. And so yeah, I just think another great match with these two. We see a promo from Finn Balor where he talks about next week's triple threat match he's in, featuring Dexter Lumis and Timothy Thatcher. That match sounds insane. I can't wait to see it. And then in our main event, Karrion Kross taking on Dominik Dijakovic. Hard-hitting stuff from these guys, just beating the hell out of each other throughout. Dominik has a couple of good moments here, but it's still Karrion Kross's world. Kross smashes Dijakovic's head behind the steel steps on the outside, drags his half-dead body into the ring, starts throwing in some just completely unguarded forearm shots to the face. Keith Lee shows up to try and offer support to Dominik and tell him just to stop and to quit. Very dramatic. It's it's my call. It's on me. He's sacrificing himself for the greater good and everything. It's very, very dramatic here. So finally, Kross jacket's applied, and the referee calls for the bell. A referee stoppage there. Very dramatic finish. Dijakovic is the Apollo Creed to Keith Lee's Rocky in this situation. Puts Kross over like a real, killer, I guess, for lack of a better word. It really just gives this new feud with Kross and Lee a lot more of emotional stake now. Puts a lot more heat on Kross. I think this is a really great way to end the show. Now, before I move on to AEW, I want to talk for a minute about mental health. I know this topic is kind of weird coming from a guy, but even guys need time to take care of our mental health. We have a lot on our plates too, and sometimes it really helps us to have somebody to talk to. That's why BetterHelp is sponsoring this week's Wednesday Warfare. Now, I'm not just talking about BetterHelp because they're sponsoring this video. I'm talking about them because I'm a customer of theirs as well. I've been talking with my counselor once a week on BetterHelp for the last couple of months now, and it's been really helpful to me in a lot of ways, especially in this time we're living in right now where we all have so much pressure and anxiety bombarding us from all sides. You can get high quality professional counseling from BetterHelp 4 ways. There's through video, phone calls, live chat, and messaging, and it's all totally secure. You're matched up with a counselor, and then you two figure out what form of communication works best for you. There's one-on-one appointments. You can message your counselor day or night, and also there's groupinars available with a lot of helpful advice. You get 4 weekly sessions a month and unlimited messaging with your counselor. There's financial aid available, and also it's available everywhere in the world. So if you want to take the next step, go to BetterHelp using my link in the description. That'll get you 10% off your first month. BetterHelp has helped me, and hopefully it can help you too. Thanks for listening, and now let's continue with the review. Dynamite this week opens up with the TNT Championship Open Challenge as Cody defends against Eddie Kingston. My Twitter feed just blew the hell up upon this revelation to start the show. Eddie Kingston is a near 20-year veteran. He's been everywhere, worked all over the world here. Probably one of the few guys with those kind of mic skills, one of the best promo guys to never really get signed to any kind of big contract anywhere. But he's, like I said, been everywhere. You've probably seen him most recently on NWA Power, one of the most universally respected guys I've ever seen in wrestling, and he's getting this great big shot here, and a lot of people are happy about it. A few people are calling for Kingston to be the one to do the open challenge. We're predicting he would show up, and sure enough, they were right. He cuts a real gritty, angry promo about how he's grinded a lot more than Cody has. He wasn't born with a silver spoon up his ass, threatens to take out Arn Anderson's eyes. He must have been watching Extreme Rules on Sunday. Anyway, he basically tells Cody that he's challenged him to a no DQ match for the championship, and it's on, and it gets wild from the beginning. It's a big brawl. They fight on the outside. There's a backdrop on the concrete. Also early on, Kingston appears to hurt his knee, which becomes a big factor into what they're telling later on. There's more back and forth, and Kingston completely escalates things by introducing thumbtacks into the equation. Big ass powerbomb to Cody in the thumbtacks. This is the opening match. Cody, Booby, why are you doing this to yourself? But Cody is able to strong style his way through the pain, knocks down Kingston, hits a figure 4 leg lock, attacking that previously injured leg. Kingston taps out, and Cody retains, but man, what a hell of a match. This is the opener, and this is what we have here. I thought this was just a great way to start the show. Kingston getting that shot created a lot of buzz, and I mean, I'd love to see more things for Kingston in the future, maybe with AEW, or maybe it's picked up by somebody else with a performance such as this. But yeah, it was a hell of an opener. We get a Jon Moxley promo where he says he's a tell it like it is kind of guy, and he tells Taz it was a smart decision that he made last week in throwing in the towel when he had Cage in the armbar, and he says the next time they face off, he will not let go. We go to our next match now as MJF takes on Griff Garrison, who was last seen on ROH TV with his partner Marcus Cross, Master and Machine, and so Griff's here in singles action. MJF berates Griff on the mic before the match, but Griff kind of throws it back at him saying, didn't you lose a tag team match at Fyter Fest? And MJF takes exception to that, and he knocks down Griff and spends the bulk of the match just beating the piss out of the poor kid. And then after the commercial break, MJF's on the microphone and he berates Griff some more, saying he takes exception to the fact that that Griff said he lost because he's undefeated, he's not been pinned, not been submitted. So he basically beats a concession out of Griff, saying, tell me that I'm undefeated. Finally goes on the mic and says it, but then he tries to do a little sneak attack, a little roll up on MJF, almost beats him. That would have been amazing if after saying he's undefeated, just bam, just beats him in an upset. But no, it's not meant to be. MJF hits the Heat Seeker to win. I thought this was some great heel work for MJF here. We get an update on Britt Baker post nose surgery, and they show pictures of it too. I'm like, yeah, put a content warning on that shit. I did not expect nor want to see surgery photos in the middle of my wrestling. But Britt's there, and she presents rule number 4, never count out a role model, and she says she's making a big comeback, like Tiger Woods, like Rocky, like Michael Jordan and the Washington Wizards, and Tony Schiavone calls her out now. Well, they never went to the playoffs and everything. And then Reba/Rebel says, I love that Tony goes, I'm not sure what we should call you. And then Rebel goes, I've seen Space Jam like 19 times, and Michael Jordan beat the Monstars every time. Like, what? Thank you for that aside. And so Britt says not to be counted out at All Out. I'm still very much enjoying this work by Britt here. And then we see Taz and Brian Cage in the ring kind of offering up a rebuttal to what Moxley said earlier. Taz says he threw in the towel as a business decision because he's experienced a torn bicep before. He doesn't want Cage to have it happen 2 times in his career, so that's why he threw in the towel. But next time, Cage will not be put in that position again. Darby Allin appears, but then Ricky Starks jumps in from behind. It was established on Dark the night before that Ricky Starks has joined Taz and Brian Cage, so the two of them beat down Darby for a bit, and then Jon Moxley shows up with a barbed wire bat, chases Cage and Starks out of there. I smell a tag team match. We get a little promo for an upcoming Women's Tag Team Cup tournament called the Deadly Draw. It will feature 8 teams of ladies, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that all turns out. Then we get a promo from Chris Jericho in the Inner Circle. Jericho says he's going to destroy Orange Cassidy's career, much like Orange destroyed his nice $7,000 jacket the previous week. Cuts a promo on Jurassic Express, and then when he's done, he asks, does it still smell like orange juice? And then they say, yes. He goes, damn it! So yeah, that made me smile. A Falls Count Anywhere match. The Young Bucks take on the Butcher and the Blade, and this match starts in the kitchen area of the arena where the Butcher and Blade are butchering meats with some blades, and they have the courtesy to wash their hands before they start fighting. I appreciated that. And they're fighting, and like Matt Jackson's like throwing or hitting them with meat as they're fighting and everything. They make their way out into the concourse and then into the arena area. They fight by a ring truck in the concourse area. They throw Nick Jackson into the truck door with Nick Jackson's picture on it. That is some meta shit right there. Also, I enjoyed the fact that in the truck you can see some like signage. There's like a box for onehourtees.com, and then there's like a sign that says Mud Show here or something like that. There was a lot of little Easter eggs in this match I really enjoyed. At one point, the Blade gets super kicked into the escalator and he just rides up it as he's selling, which I thought was an incredible shot. They eventually make their way to the ring. They set up some tables and everything. Blade goes for a plancha and completely whiffs the table. Like, does not hit it at all, and that was supposed to be what happened. But then, after that moment, then the Butcher slams, I think it was Matt Jackson, through another table. They end up fighting their way up the stage, and we get the stereo splashes from the top of the stage through the tables onto the Butcher and Blade for the Bucks to win. This was such a fun match. It was so entertaining. Like, it had all the high-flying action, the high-paced stuff that we've seen from the Bucks. We had some like levity thrown in there with the stuff in the kitchen, throwing the meat, the door with Nick Jackson's face on it. There was a lot of really entertaining stuff in this tag team match. I just couldn't believe how, like, you had in the first hour alone, you've got this match and you had Cody versus Eddie Kingston. Like, they came out really with both barrels in the first hour. In my favorite moment of the show, Lance Archer walks into a locker room and beats the bejesus out of 3 random dudes, including one small guy who he just absolutely destroys. He throws him into the ceiling, and the way this dude comes crashing down is hysterical to watch. Then he just like fucks him into a trash can. I hope that kid's okay. And all while this entire chaos is happening, Jake Roberts is off camera talking to Alex Marvez in just the chillest way possible, explaining how Lance Archer's mad about everything. And that's pretty much the segment there, is Lance Archer like just straight up murdering fools. That was an incredible visual. Ivelisse taking on Diamante up next. We've not seen Diamante in AEW since January when she was on Dark, and meanwhile Ivelisse goes further back than that. She was last seen at All Out. This match, there's not much for me to say specifically about it that I liked, but I mean, it was just a great energy in the match. They had a really solid performance, great back and forth. It ends when Diamante is able to hit a small package from out of nowhere to win. I thought it was really good stuff, and I hope to see more of them in the future. Alan Angels, aka Five of the Dark Order, taking on Hangman Page. As Page makes his entrance, he removes his bandana to reveal a face mask. Ooh, what a statement. When the match begins, the Dark Order start showing up on stage to watch the match as it happens. It's pretty solid here. Page looks great in there, hits a big old powerbomb to win pretty decisively. Then afterward, out come Brody Lee and Colt Cabana. I was kind of disappointed when that first wave of the Dark Order guys showed up. I was expecting Colt to be there to like, hey guys, what's up? Hey, what are we all doing here? But no, he shows up with Brody Lee later, as then Brody basically offers Colt, offers Page, I should say, protection for the Dark Order, but Page says he doesn't want to join a cult. So then Brody takes Colt Cabana backstage, and he doesn't want Colt to see the evil things they do here, because the other 5 guys or 4 guys surround Page. Page starts swinging, but they start beating him up, the numbers game. Out come FTR, who just like huck a cooler full of beer at these guys, and then Kenny Omega shows up late to the party. They've already cleaned house. So then we get this moment here where, FTR give a beer to Page, and they kind of like, they leave Kenny hanging because he wants to go for a handshake, and they just totally fave him. So I'm really curious, this relationship between Omega and Page just gets curiouser and curiouser, and it's been really weird ever since they've been a team. It feels like there's always been some kind of tension or building up to something. We don't know what it is. And last week we saw some glimpses of Kenny Omega as a heel, and we didn't really get to see any of that happen this week, any kind of development in that department. But, where does FTR fit into all this? Time will tell. But I also love the fact that, almost immediately afterward, after, Page and Omega run in and save the Dark Order beating, there's an announcement, Page and Omega will defend the tag title against the Dark Order next week. That's a coincidence. They just had that match just lined up and ready to go. Main event time as Chris Jericho and Jake Hager take on the Jurassic Express. Right away, as soon as Luchasaurus and Hager are in the ring at the same time, they just start throwing bombs, and they immediately bust each other open, because Luchasaurus is bleeding from the ear, Hager from the nose. Some snug work early on in this matchup here. Matt Hardy is looking on from the crowd. They make it a point to show him a couple of times on camera. Jericho fights with Aubrey Edwards over the use of the baseball bat. Luchasaurus, of course, king of the hot tag, probably was the most exciting hot tag in all of AEW as far as I'm concerned. Marco Stunt gets involved when the referee's not looking. Suddenly Serpentico shows up and decks Luchasaurus with a bat from behind, allowing Jericho to hit the code breaker to win. And then Serpentico unmasks to reveal it's Sammy Guevara. He is back from his suspension, and he's rejoined the Inner Circle. The beatdown continues when suddenly Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends run in to chase the heels out. And then, like, seconds later, Tony Schiavone says, Tony Khan just told me it's going to be a 10-man tag team match next week. Like, that's so convenient that Tony Khan's just right on the button there. That really takes me out of it, where it's like you've got these instant decisions and Tony Khan's just watching. He's got his hand on the button, ready to push it, like he's just watching in the booth. And the minute something happens, like, boom, that's got to be a match for next week. Besides that, I thought the main event was okay. Good to see Sammy back. I think he's served his penance. He's served his time, after the dumb comments he made many years ago had come to light. And so, yeah, I'm glad to see Sammy back, and hopefully he can, he seems to have really grown and learned a lot from those comments and everything. Seems to have genuine regret and remorse for having said them, and hopefully he can move on, and we can all move on and be fine with that. But yeah, Sammy back in the Inner Circle can only be a good thing, because we can hear more of his excellent karaoke skills trying to sing Judas. Time now for me to decide which show won for the week, NXT or AEW Dynamite, and this week my choice is NXT. I think across those 2 hours, NXT had the stronger, more consistently strong, high-quality content, especially in terms of the matches. And don't get me wrong, because AEW, like I said, totally brought it with that first hour, with the reveal of Eddie Kingston as the surprise opponent, and then the wild match he had with Cody, and that crazy Falls Count Anywhere match with the Bucks and the Butcher and the Blade. My God. But like I mentioned, that first hour was pretty strong, and I don't think the second hour could really match up the energy on that one. So I felt a little kind of like lingering at the end, kind of a little disappointed in the drop-off in the excitement there. Whereas I thought NXT was far more consistent, and I think they paced and they stacked the show a bit better and made it a little more balanced. But let me know what you thought about NXT and AEW this week in the comments section below. Which show did you think won? Who do you think should challenge Cody next for the TNT Championship? Look forward to hearing what y'all have to say. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.